Hey guys, welcome to Unscripted with Marshall Brown and Brandon Dodd, the ministers at Flagstone Church. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to be walking through meaningful community and how we can build meaningful community. So we're going to be walking through some biology from some pastors. So know that we're not quite equipped to be able to do all of that, but man, we've got some cool sources that we're going to be pulling from, and how ultimately that is how we're designed for connection, designed for meaningful community. So sit back. Get ready to go.
Yeah. Here we go with Unscripted.
Let's get unscripted.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about healthy relationships, healthy friendships.
Yeah.
So quick question for you. If you can think back way many years ago.
Way.
Not nearly as far back as I would have to. I don't know. Elementary school, junior high, high school, you pick the age range, but just who is your best friend? How did you know that person was your best friend? Like what was the I don't know, character traits of your best friend?
Oh, well, it's funny because like nowadays you're trying to make friends, and I know it's difficult for everybody. It seems like it's difficult, but you can be like, oh yeah, well, I watched that guy, playing this game on his phone or something like that, or wearing this particular jersey. And it's like, okay, there you go.
We have a connection.
I feel like as kids, I mean, it's the same way, but it's a lot more like simple.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, you're eating dirt. I also like to eat dirt, and then like you're like hanging out together.
Okay, quick question: were you a dirt eater when you were a kid?
Oh man, yeah.
Okay,
that's how. Okay, so you asked me the question. That's how I met Parker Kitchens. Like, I love you, buddy. If this finds your way, okay, it's how I met Parker Kitchens. He probably doesn't even remember, but I think it was at some kind of a church event or something like that, and we're just chowing. We're just eating.
Just eating dirt,
man.
What age are we talking about?
I mean, early teens. It was like nothing
Shut
crazy.
up.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean. Yeah, so he was like one of my best friends, and we would hang out and things like that. I remember later on in probably elementary, there was like Brett Woolsen and Kerry Leaf. I love those guys. Later on, I moved schools, so I kind of, you kind of had to shift those kinds of things. So like David and Santiago Ferrero, like I miss you guys. I'm talking to them forever. And then like Justin and Jared, these twin guys, we became friends because we were at church. We had similar values.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask. Was like, the eating dirt thing is one thing, but like, how did you know those guys, like in high school and stuff? Like, how do you know, like, these are my friends? This is my circle.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can kind of be thinking about your answer because my thing is, if I think about my best friends growing up, elementary school is kind of hard because you switch best friends probably, multiple times during your elementary years. Mm-hmm. But the one for the bulk of my teenage years, if I think about like why we were that close, why we continue to be friends, there's a lot of like we shared a lot of the same interests. Mm-hmm. We have very similar sense of humor. It was kind of like, well, I don't know, like we just had a lot in common, and like, not that I didn't have things in common with other people, but he was one that it just seemed even more of a connection. Does that make sense?
I think that this is like the vibe. You guys had similar vibes. Yeah. And you guys were able to like feed off of that and be able to like do things naturally. You didn't have to work for conversation. Right. Those kinds of things.
Right. But there wasn't like a formal conversation like, you are now my best friend. Yeah. And I mean, maybe there was in elementary school, but definitely not.
Dude, I was talking with teenagers yesterday because we were talking about this subject, which is why it kind of worked out. I was like, you guys remember like, friendship bracelets and stuff? I had a couple of teenage girls be like, yeah, right here. Like check it out. And then I had one teenage boy. I was like, man, it's coming back, man. Like, you and I are friends. Here you go. Yeah. Just give me that. Yeah. Put that out.
So, but part of it, and I totally interrupted your train of thought. I apologize for a minute doing that a second ago. But part of that is, like, I think with just kind of man, this doesn't even sound good on a podcast. But with the way our world is now, especially post COVID. I mean, it's already becoming this, I think, pre-COVID, but especially since we had, the pandemic a few years ago, the way we define friendship and or even in a dating relationship, just a meaningful relationship, the character traits of that, I think, has changed somewhat.
Yeah, I think it's...
Or not necessarily changed, but broadened.
Yes, I think that's for sure
Yeah.
there. Yeah, because I think to kind of double down on what you were saying, I mean, from the past and from the present, the reason that we have the friends that we have and the reason that we choose the friends that we choose is because of something that you said. Like, I was friends with my people because of proximity. I'm
Right.
like close to them. I was going to church.
I see them all the time.
Yeah, I was in school. We were doing sports or something like that
Mm-hmm.
together, or we'd hang out and play video games after school, something like that, or just hang out on the neighborhood. But then we have mutual interests in activities. Like, we did a lot of those things.
Right.
And a lot of those are precursors to friendship. It's like,
Yeah.
if all those things are present, then like the recipe is cooking
Yeah.
to where it's like, oh yeah, this could blossom into something that you really like.
Right.
And something that I think is cool that we're doing on this podcast is doing some more meaningful research on figuring those kinds of
Yes.
things out.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was some pretty cool stuff that I found from Pew Research that they did a couple years back. It was from 2015. So the conversation's changed just a little bit, but then some other things from Psychology Today of just
Yeah.
like understanding friendships and like, why do we friendship in general?
Right.
And we know that we're built for connection. And we're
Yeah,
built
we
for
talked about
friendship.
that in the last episode. Like, it's
Yeah.
obvious that that's part of our DNA. That's how God created
Yeah.
us. Was
And
to be
so-
in some kind of relationship with somebody.
Yeah, and so if you think about like Adam and Eve and those, there's proximity and mutual interest. We've got a similar job. We're both working the garden. We're naming the animals. We're doing these things together.
right.
And proximity, like all those
Yeah.
things are there too. And so you kind of have to have those kinds of things. And so, yeah, there has to be some respect. There has to be like a similar vibe or affinity, some have give and take too. And friendships, this is one thing that the psychologist was talking about, of like, there has to be, if I can't just give 100% and you only give 20,
Yeah.
like if we have established that that is the way that their friendship is going to be, I'm going to give you 100 and you're going to give me 20, then that's okay. But there has to be like sometimes whenever I take from you, and that you take from me, and that we just give and take and stuff too. But so this was one thing that they defined friendship as, is like the most basic, like reason, the most basic purpose is to provide support.
Okay.
And it's similar to family, but there's a difference. What do you think the difference would be?
Hey, well, obviously you're not blood related. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's absolutely it. So you you have to love your sons and your wife, right?
Legally, I'm obligated to.
There's a
so,
legal obligation
yeah.
to where you have to love, right? There's an actual legal document.
By the way,
says,
I actually do love my sons and my wife.
no
That's
no
not,
facetious stuff
that's
there.
not.
There is a legal
'cause I have
document
to.
that says that, not necessarily that you have to love your wife, but you're going to be with your wife,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you're legally binded to her,
Yeah.
and because of that, you are legally bound to your sons and stuff too.
Right.
And so there is like a, hey, we have to. With friendship, it's all voluntary,
That's true.
and you can get out at any moment.
That's true.
So what's cool about friendship, and I think it's cool, I've been kind of going back and forth on like, what's more important? What's most beneficial? Is it family relationships? Is it friendships? And I think it's different for each person. But they both do the same thing. They both are supposed to provide support.
Yeah.
So back to what you were saying of that, we were kind of headed there pre-COVID, but now that we're, COVID has happened and there's lots and leaps of bounds that we're taking as far as what do real friendships look like?
Right.
And if they're there to provide support, the broadening of like, well, there are lots of people that I'm friends with face-to-face in person, but I feel like that there's a lot of us nowadays that are friends with people that we have either not met, or are strictly online, or strictly on social media, or strictly on like video games or something like that.
For sure.
For teenagers especially, the social media and video games, there's a lot of that. And so the question that you and I aim to respond to, not necessarily answer, kind of figuring out some pros and cons really of like what, if friendship is supposed to be support, and like what's the definition of friendship? It's supposed to be support. It's supposed to be this mutual affinity and respect and back and forth with likes and interests and proximity and those kinds of things. How does that apply to our online friendships too? And
Right.
are those equally as valid, or is there a disadvantage to either of those?
See, and I think that's one of the questions to really answer. I think that's part of why we're having this conversation, in this particular episode. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I'm significantly older than you.
Significant is a gross overstatement.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm older than you. And so, like my life experiences have been different than yours, especially when it comes to, like, technology and stuff. So, when I was, obviously when I was a kid, but teenager, college age, young adult, I mean, cell phones were fairly new.
Yeah.
Not everybody had one. much less like there wasn't texting. There, like I remember people when pagers were all the rage. I remember that. Like somebody sent me a page, which I didn't even have that. That was but
Those are for the upper.
that's right. But friendships, you only define friendships, people that you were friends with, like truly friends with, as people that we already talked about. Like we're in proximity. We spend time together. We have some kind of regular face-to-face in the same room interaction, and that, and maybe, that person moves away, I have friends in college, they moved here, I moved here. And so we don't have that kind of interaction anymore, but the friendship is still there because it was established
Right.
in the same room.
And so even if it was a pen pal relationship after that,
Yeah.
or you had to,
Yeah. Or phone calls, or, we just don't see each other very often. We still say, oh, that's my friend, because we built that connection already. And so there was part of me, especially when the internet, came through and was just growing, just internet and usage and what all the things you can do on the internet was growing by leaps and bounds back in my youth ministry days. It was, I'll just confess, I was probably a little bit judgy about kids who would say, yeah, I've got this friend that lives in, Seattle or something like that they've never seen before, but they're chatting online with. And I'm like, well, okay, that's an acquaintance, but that can't really be your friend.
Well, and I think that everybody would agree that at least at the beginnings of those ages would be like, yeah, because friendship had only been one way. Mm-hmm. There was only one way. And to quote what you said a couple minutes ago, the door is just widening.
Right. And so that's what I think I still like default to that,
Yeah.
But I recognize, especially when we went through the pandemic and everybody was doing Zoom calls and FaceTimes and, all the different ways that they were trying to interact on a regular basis with people that we weren't allowed to be together, in the same room because of COVID. Can we still maintain or build relationships? And I feel like if we already had relationships with those people, then it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is still my family, or these are still my friends, because
FaceTime or texting.
We're doing it digitally, but the connection had already been established. But I'm recognizing now, at least I think, I don't know, you can give me your opinion. I'm having to allow my perception, my definition, what defines a friendship, that the character traits of that, I guess, to be broadened, because I recognize that there are people who do have, at least from their perspective, and it probably needs to become more from my perspective, a solid, legitimate friendship with somebody that they've never actually seen before. Yeah. But because of not just phone calls, but in these, in the digital world, they can hear voices and see, and like, it would be the same, like if they were in the same room, just had like a piece of glass between them. Like we're still interacting, we're still talking, what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we got to kind of redefine what a meaningful friendship is.
It seemed like that there's a stigma about online friendships that is fading away. Yeah. And I think even
probably needs to. I would guess.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting because I've really came into a lot of this research of trying to see that. And Morgan, my wife, who's a nurse, she's like, it's kind of hard to quantify those kinds of things of like what's most beneficial. Right. Because I mean, it depends. If you're introverted and I'm extroverted, or if I, have social anxiety or depression or something like that, and all of these kinds of things all are nuanced into it. And the best research that I could find was from Pew Research, where they were like, what are some happiness levels like in the brain? And then they had lots of information. I was like, oh, it was like a 35-page research document. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So it's kind of just hard to quantify. First of all, it's difficult for us to figure out. Yeah. So would you mind? I've just got a list of like pros and cons that you and I can kind of just like work through. Yeah. So here's some pros. Let's start with some pros.
Pros of what?
Pros of online friendships.
Okay.
Got pros and cons, but we'll start with pros of online friendships. Mm-hmm. First, it's with online friendships, it's easier to find mutual interests. Yep. Which, yeah, totally makes sense. Whenever I get on Google and I'm looking for something, it's like, it's like a people group or something. Like, what do Christians say about this particular topic? Or what do Republicans say or Democrats say about this particular topic? Or like, what's America's stance? And then automatically you're targeted towards, like, you're directed to people who think the same way.
Right.
And so if you're like, yeah, I really like this video game and this level, all of a sudden there's like a whole, like a forum or whatever of people that are talking about that. And all of a sudden I've found people that have similar likes and interests.
Yeah, but you can even take that a step further with all I'm recognizing this. I don't participate in this because I'm old and technology scares me. But but with the virtual reality stuff, there are, just worlds and rooms that you can, with this thing over your eyes, you can walk into and interact with people. Now you create a persona of yourself, and they have a persona, but like, it's like walking into a room. It's like walking into a bar or something, and like, okay, I'm looking around, all these different people are here, but we have shared interests. Or you got, I don't know, Discord. Like, there's different things where you can find people who have the same interests that you do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's cool because you can look for that and find that. I mean, so a lot of times we connect with people, especially online, where we share similar passions or feelings about topics that we value, social issues, political issues, contemporary culture, those kinds of things. And I thought it was cool that we also connect with people that experience events or transitions that we're experiencing. I remember, I was given a book from my mother-in-law of like, you're expecting your first kid. And like, here's where you're at.
Was it what to expect when you're expecting?
Yeah, except for me. It wasn't that Morgan got that book, but I got a silly version for dads. Okay. That's super dumbed down for dads. Yeah. But it's cool because I can get online and find spaces just for people like that.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm struggling. I have no idea what to do. We talked about this in the last podcast. Like, I can't connect with my son in the same way that Morgan can at the very beginning, and I just feel like I'm hopeless. Yeah. And I talked with people here at this church of the similar thing of like, man, the baby's crying and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And you're just seeking people that are going through these similar experiences. You can find that online. You can find that in person.
Right.
But it makes it really, really easy online to find other people like, yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. And so people that are going through those things, or just like hobbies and stuff. So like, hey, you like to kayak? Me too. You like Disney World? Me too. Or, hey man, I'm going through COVID, or I'm going through, I just broke my leg and I'm trying to figure out how to readjust or something like that. You can find that online too. So it's easier to find mutual interests. It's easier to break the ice.
For sure.
Because where there's the awkwardness of like, yeah, I can sit down and have some like a thoughtful response, or be like, yeah, hey, you like this? This is cool. What do you think about this? Yeah. Are you excited about the new movie that's coming out? Because we found that liked interest, and it's a lot easier to do something like that.
Well, and it's also, if it is an awkward conversation, I can get out of it a whole lot more easily.
Oh yeah.
Digitally. Click.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're done talking now.
Unfollow. And so that's actually,
if we're in like the same room or something.
Yeah. That's like
I have to come up with an excuse like, oh, look at the time, or I gotta.
You don't gotta do that at all. You just log off, man.
Yeah. Just click of a button, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which can be a pro and can be a con.
Right, but I'm saying, as far as the pro comes.
Yeah. I can just that's one of the very last things I got right here. I'll say that too. There's a really high level of control.
Yeah, for sure.
Of that, the relationship that I have with people online or in a game or on social media, I'm laying down in my bed with like the TV on and the fire, like, and the dog cuddled up next. There's like, I have all of that control. And just like you said, if you ask me a deep question or even say something that would be
potentially hurtful or something.
Yeah, I have time to cultivate my response.
Yeah.
And instead of me being like, well, you're just ugly or something like that, in a real like conversation, I can actually come up with, I can look up some articles and educated, boom, get you back or something. So there's a high level of control. And kind of with that, there's a pro for online friendships that they can deepen very quickly.
Okay.
So it was actually something where it was a criticism at first of like, well, whenever you're online, you can't really get deep because you and I being in person, face to face, I can see your body language and I can understand you. I can feel you. I can see your tears and the emphatic, neurons that are clicking and stuff like we talked about last week. I can feel that. But online too, it's a lot quicker. People are just there's the certain you're separated by the screen, but I'm more willing to talk about mental health. I'm more willing to talk about my struggles or I see it all the time on Facebook and Instagram of like, yeah, man, I'm struggling with depression right now, and this video really helped me. Like, I don't know you from Adam, but you're confessing stuff that if I were to talk to you in person in a coffee shop and stuff, it'd be a lot more difficult and time consuming, I would think.
Yeah. Well, having to judge, think what tone I want to say these things with, and judging your reaction to your body language, and trying to interpret. Okay, did I just offend them? Are they agreeing with me? Are they tuned out? Like all those things are part of your conversation with a in person, face to face, interaction versus doing that online is like you can get pretty deep pretty quick because you control the safeguards and there's a little bit of safety. Because there's at least, even if it's somebody you say I'm really good friends with this person, there's still a hint of anonymity. Like there's still part of me that like they don't have to truly see everything about me. I'll give them this window into this part of my life and get deep into that, but I don't have to show them everything. Sure.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's where you kind of move into the cons of online friendship too, which you can have friends around the globe, varying ways of communication and stuff too. Yeah. So some cons with that, just to level off with that, is that, but this is true in in-person friendships as well.
Just go through them first.
Yeah, you can be really single-faceted of like, let's say that you and I connect with, what's one thing that you and I actually connect with? Of like, we're not actually friends in.
I know. I'm totally caught off guard. It can't be coffee because I don't like coffee.
R.I.P.
I don't know.
I guess Bible nerd stuff.
Yeah, Bible nerd stuff. I was going to say Will Ferrell movies.
Yeah.
We connect on
that. We could do that. Good movies and stuff.
Don't judge me.
That's fine. Yeah. So it could be that every time that I see, I mean, we've got friends. Everybody's got friends like that in the office, right? Of, hey man, the Chiefs playing.
Yeah.
Like,
you got the one friend with the one connection.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you hear that new Marvel movie's coming out, and every single time I talk to that person, we're talking about Marvel movies, or every time I see you, we're talking about a Will Ferrell movie or something like that. And it's a lot easier to do that online, where we only talk about this one thing.
Right.
But friendships are dynamic, and so to be able to show off the broad range of the person that you are, it's more difficult and time consuming to do that, but it's also more difficult and time consuming to do that in person as well.
For sure.
Of like, I need to break through a couple of glass ceilings to make sure that we are like, that we're more than that. And I need to take you to coffee to be like, hey, we like more than Will Ferrell, right? Like we're more connected than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a couple more things with that then so an online friendship, they could be not what they seem. This is the typical stigma of like, well, how do you know that you're talking to somebody that's real? How do you know that you're not talking to...
Don't give too much personal information because you don't know what they're actually doing.
Yeah, and so don't give away your personal information.
There's so many like catfishing stories too. I mean, there's a whole TV show about people being catfished, right? Of like somebody creating this online or this digital persona and totally duping someone into thinking that they were this person when they're somebody completely different. Yeah,
and I think that totally happens. I think sometimes we blow it out of proportion to where like every single person that I could talk to online is
obviously dangerous.
Is an old, like, definitely not,
Yeah.
Anyway, so but that's valid. But what's funny about that too is that like that could be true with in person.
Man, for sure. That's like all that you say about that, but I can create a persona with I mean, and we do that too. Like, especially when that friendship is building, there's a certain point where, okay, like,
I'm gonna put up some walls.
Yeah. You're not going to get to see the real me, or I'm going to be really guarded about what I actually say or what I actually feel because of how I assume that you're going to react.
Yeah.
You can totally be somebody different. You can do that even around certain people. I mean, we see that. We see people that act one way. I mean, because we're both in ministry. We know people. Well, we do it ourselves. I just confess, or I do. Yeah. Act one way at church, act another way around everybody else.
You got different circles and different personas almost for each of those circles.
Yeah. So it's not that's not what happens in person, but it seems like there's a greater risk.
Yeah.
With the online relationship.
I'll go through these last three really quick. I mean, it's easier to, it says here, it's easier to miscommunicate. I think it is easier to miscommunicate whenever you're doing stuff just online, especially if you're typing it out. If you're not
Right.
having, some kind of like a FaceTime or something like that to read body language and all of that, tone. There's a difference. I don't know if Chrissy, your wife, does this or anything, but if I get a text that's just like K, like the letter K,
Yeah.
like with a period, I'm scared. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of like nuanced texting stuff. You know what I mean?
Years ago, I was taking Tyson, my youngest son, to basketball practice, and it was when he was first driving. So I was letting him drive. We were picking up a couple of his teammates. It was during the summer, and so he's driving. So he's like, "Can you text those guys and tell them that we're on our way?" And I was like, "Sure." And I know this about me. I use proper grammar in my texts most of the time.
How dare you?
I use and the commas and the periods and everything. They're all in the right place. And so I sent him a text and just said, "Hey, we're on our way," and put a period. It's a sentence. "Hey, we're on our way," period. One of his buddies texted back and goes, "Why are you mad?" So I asked Tyson, I was like, "Why did he say this?" He's like, "Did you put a period at the end of the sentence?" I was like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I?" He's like, "Because that sounds like you're mad."
See, because then
So
you would respond,
like,
"I'm not mad, period."
What?
You're like, "Oh, bro, stay away from Marshall today."
"I'm not mad!" Exclamation point. What?
Whoa! Exclamation point.
Yeah. So to
Easier.
your point, like you can't tell tone sometimes. You can't tell like what are they actually trying to say
Yeah.
in just reading words. So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And with that, if you guys get into a disagreement, it's tougher to make up because I can speak from a teenage perspective, at least the things that they told me, that it's just a lot easier just to like block, unfriend, or
You don't have to deal with conflict.
yeah, you can just like end it right there.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Which is not healthy, by the way.
Yeah, I think that my generation and the generation after me, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha after that, we're kind of obsessed with like ghosting. Of like, I don't really know what to say right now, so I'm just not gonna say anything at all.
Oh my gosh.
And it's difficult because I'm talking to myself of like, man, I feel like an old man when I say it, but like, if we're gonna be Jesus following, Christ centered people, there needs to be honor and there needs to be respect and there needs to be clear communication.
Yeah.
And ghosting has none of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm preaching at myself, man, because it's so much easier just to like leave it be.
Yeah, for sure.
So in the end, your friendships could just disappear. Like this is a con of online friendship is that I could just be like, hey man, you know what, block or something like that. Or if all of a sudden my mom says, hey, I can't play video games anymore, friendship's over.
Yeah.
It's just done. And so I mean, we haven't talked about this before because it's unscripted, but like, I just want to see where you're at. The definition of healthy friendships and the broadening of that. Do you think that we can? Well, I'll say my opinion first.
Okay.
I think that they're different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they are the same online and in-person friendships. I think that they're different, but I think they're both beneficial, and I think they're both good but nuanced for different people.
Yes. I agree. I would just capitalize on that a little bit. Say my personal opinion has changed. I think that you can have healthy online friendships and relationships with people. The dating relationship aspect, which really we've been talking more about friendships and dating, but dating is a little bit trickier because if you're going to date somebody, at some point you're going to have to be in the same room with that person. That's just the healthy part of a dating relationship. But
if you're going to get married, can't get married online.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just all sorts of risks because there are stories about, people meeting people online and dating this whole time, and then we're going to get married. I've never actually seen them before, and that can turn out to be really, really bad. But with the friendships, if we think about what do I want out of this friendship? Why am I friends with this person? Like you said, we have common interests. I can share some things with this person that maybe I can't share with others. They feel free to share some things with me, and I can be a support for them. Can I do those things with somebody online that I've never actually been in the same room as? Absolutely. And I used to think, no, you can't. But yeah, you can. And I've witnessed it. I've seen healthy friendships with people who have never stepped foot in the same room as somebody else. So yeah. But I think ideally, God has created us for connection, and that there needs to be somebody in your life. Can you have friends that are just online? Absolutely. But my personal opinion is you need to have somebody in your life, at least one or two people, that can physically touch you and hug you and support you. And like, we need that. We crave it, even if we deny that craving. We do crave that. It's part of our DNA, is to have that emotional but also physical connection. I need to be able to interact with somebody, at least one or two people, on a regular basis for my own mental and emotional health that's in the same room.
Yeah.
So I learn how to interact, and I learn, and they can receive that support and help and connection from me too.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think it goes back to our last.
I don't have any stats with me to prove that, but I feel like that's important though.
That's why I think it works with the stats that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Of like, we're made for empathy.
Yeah.
And it's just it's tougher to have real, like, empathic care for somebody across the screen. Now, is it impossible? No. Of course. I have empathic care for people. I'm scrolling through reels and stuff and be like, man, that looks like it was a tough situation. Like, praying for you, brother.
Yeah.
And to have, this love connection and the generosity and the connection from that, everything that we talked about, and the physical touch of, like, whenever we have that, like, does the physical touch, the pat on the back and stuff, like, does that bring us closer in connection with our neurons firing and stuff? And I think you're right. I think that it does.
Yeah. Well, and I even think there's some people who are like, physical touch is not my love language, or
sure,
I don't like, I'm introverted enough, and I have a anxiety kind of thing where I don't like people touch me.
Sure.
Agreed. I'm not denying that, but I bet there's somebody in your life, or at least, again, I think there should be somebody that you allow to kind of break through that barrier and have in-person interaction with on a regular basis. I think we all need that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So
I'm not denying the health is. Can you have healthy online friendships? Absolutely. I'm convinced of that now. Mm-hmm. But I also, the caveat to that is, I think you need to have at least one or two healthy in-person friendships as well.
Yeah. And friendship has been around for a really, really long time. And just to kind of cap off this conversation, every time that I talk about friendship with teenagers and youth ministry, Proverbs is it, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of other places. You got Jesus that's got lots of friends. He's got his 12 guys that he, like, really spent like 24 hours a day for 3 years. I mean, he's like those guys, but then he had his close three, Peter, James, and John, of like, these are his guys. And then, like, John was like his, like, soul brother,
the one that he loved.
Yeah, this the soul guy and stuff too. And I think that's a pretty good, like, there's lots of people that I know superficially, but are there 12 people that I can run and do life with, and then are there 3 people that I feel like I can trust with just everything that I've got, that I can touch and be around and like be across the table from and live life and cry with, and like the reciprocity, is that the word?
I think so.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocate?
Yeah, reciprocate with. That's
go.
a lot better. Yeah, that we can go back and forth with. But then, is there that one person, one or two people that's like, man, I love this verse in 1 Samuel chapter 18. It's David and Jonathan. It's these two bros. They're not actually brothers and stuff, but they become, it's 1 Samuel 18 verses 1 and 3. It talks about how David and Jonathan, that their souls were knit together. Like, and they went through some mutual experiences and a little bit of some trauma and stuff of Jonathan's dad trying to murder David and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's just their souls were knit together. And imagine having a friend, not a spouse, a friend that, think about the fabric that we're wearing right now. That's like, that's knit together. How hard it would be to rip those things apart, but that's how close we are.
Yeah.
And it says in verse 3 that Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. So as much as I think about myself and my needs and the things that I want, like, that's how much that my friend is thinking about my needs and stuff too. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do I think we can find that online? Yeah, for sure. But man, to find somebody that you can do life with in person, man, that's a gift from God.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's the ideal goal, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
Awesome. I think that's all we've got today.
Yeah, I think
unless
so.
you can think of anything else.
No, man.
Yeah, I got to check.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we hope that you can join us next week for our next episode. I think that we're going to be talking about what it means to cultivate good friendships. I think that's what it is.
Like how we actually do that.
Yeah, so we've got friends. Now, what does it mean to upkeep?
We need friendships and relationships. We've got them. How do we get them? How do we grow them?
And growing them. How can we cultivate them? How can we fertilize them and grow them into something that's healthy?
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Cool.
See you guys next time.
Appreciate it.